Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Scientist. If you're new here, I make curiosity-driven explorations into the wonders of science, designed to help you drift off a little more curious than you were before. And if you've been here before, welcome back, dreamy voyager. It's good to see you again. I'm so glad you've chosen to join me for this extended journey tonight. Tonight, we're going to do something special. We're going to float gently beyond Earth's atmosphere. We're going to leave the familiar blue sky behind, watching it deepen to indigo, and then to the pure, velvet black of space, sprinkled with the sharp, unwavering light of distant stars. We are entering a realm where up and down lose their meaning, a world where the ground is, well, optional. We're headed into space, not for the thrill of rockets or the buzz of launch control. There will be no jarring countdowns, no violent shaking, no deafening roar. Our launch will be a silent one, a gentle ascent of the mind. We are journeying outwards to explore something deeper, quieter, and far more mysterious. We are going to explore gravity. Think about it for a moment. Gravity. It's the most intimate and pervasive force in our lives. It's the reason your head is resting so comfortably on your pillow right now. The reason the blanket on top of you has a reassuring weight. It's the force that keeps your feet on the floor when you walk. The silent partner that ensures your cup of tea doesn't just float off the table and hover in the air. It's the unseen hand that guides a falling leaf on its spiraling journey to the ground. It is also the silent sculptor of the cosmos. It carves stars from clouds of dust. It choreographs the waltz of galaxies. And it is the final arbiter in that unfortunate, but universally understood, moment when your toast lands jam side down. It is everywhere, and it is always with us. But what if you could step away from it, just for a little while? What if you could untether yourself from this constant, gentle tugging at your sleeves? What would the universe feel like then? What secrets would it whisper to you in the profound silence of the float? In this long journey tonight, we're going to explore what floating in a vacuum really teaches us about gravity. We'll drift alongside astronauts in orbit and try to understand what is truly happening to their bodies and minds. We will explore how this constant force has shaped every part of our being, from our bones to our very sense of direction. And we will follow the great minds of Newton and Einstein as they turned our entire concept of this force upside down, transforming it from a simple pull into the very fabric of reality itself. And we will do all of this in a way that is light, gentle, and hopefully very sleep-friendly. Now, I should probably warn you, this journey is dangerously informative. My goal is to help you drift off, but the universe is a fascinating place. I'll do my best not to make it too interesting. But if you find yourself lying awake, pondering the warping of spacetime or the nature of black holes, well, at least you'll be learning something wonderful. And that's a pretty good trade-off for a few losses, don't you think? Before we begin our slow drift, I'd love to ask you to settle in, just a little more deeply. If you haven't already, maybe dim the lights, fluff your pillows one last time. Perhaps you have a star projector, casting a gentle, swirling galaxy on your ceiling, or maybe your cat is already purring beside you, a small, furry engine of peace, already surrendered to the pull of sleep. Wherever and however you're listening, I invite you now to let your body relax, let your breath slow down, and let your mind begin to wander. Just a little. We are in no hurry here. There is no destination we need to rush to. We are just floating, because in space, there's no up, no down, only motion, curves, and a profound, beautiful quiet. Astronauts often describe the feeling of microgravity as both liberating and deeply disorienting. You can flip and twist and float in place. A superhero in your own quiet movie. A simple, gentle push from a wall can send you gliding gracefully across a room, and yet, everything around you, the station, your fellow astronauts, the very air you breathe, is still very much under the powerful influence of Earth's gravity. It just doesn't feel like it. That's the central trick, the cosmic sleight of hand we're going to explore tonight. What we perceive as weightlessness isn't the absence of gravity at all. It is the presence of something far stranger, far more elegant. It is a state of perpetual fall, of perfect, unending motion. And to understand that, we will have to visit not just the International Space Station, but the minds of the giants who first glimpsed the true nature of this force. We will touch upon the immense pull of black holes and the peculiar, sometimes challenging, effects that gravity, and its absence, has on the human body. But we will go slowly. This is not a rocket launch. This is a slow drift out of Earth's atmosphere. Imagine it now, a gentle, upward float, rising through the soft layers of the air, watching the world shrink below. We are ascending into the invisible web that binds the entire universe together. So, take one last look, in your mind's eye, at the surface beneath you. Wherever you're lying or sitting, feel the gravity holding you down, like a gentle, reassuring hand on your back. It's been with you since the moment you were born, a constant, silent companion. But for the next little while, we're going to imagine what it feels like to loosen that grip, to float beyond its immediate, tangible sensation, and to see what secrets gravity has been hiding from us all along. Because sometimes, the very best way to understand something so fundamental is to leave it behind for a bit, to see the world from a new perspective. All right, sleepy scientists, let your body feel heavy, let your mind feel light. Let's begin our journey. Floating in a vacuum. What space teaches us about gravity? So, what is gravity? It's one of those wonderfully simple questions that blossoms into immense complexity. The moment you try to truly answer it, you might say, well, it's what pulls things down, and you would not be wrong. That is our most direct, unpersonal experience of it. But it's a bit like saying sleep is what happens when you close your eyes. It's true, but it misses the vast, beautiful, and mysterious universe of what's actually going on. To begin our exploration, let's start at the beginning, not the Big Bang beginning. That's a story for another night. We're easing into this. Let's just rewind our clocks by a few hundred years, to a quiet garden in England, and to the legendary story of an apple falling on Sir Isaac Newton's head. Now, the small spoiler alert before we proceed. The apple, according to most historians, didn't actually hit him on the head. That was likely a dramatic flourish added later by Voltaire. But the story captures a truth. Newton did see an apple fall, and it did get him thinking in a way no one had before. Picture the scene. It's the mid-1660s. Newton has retreated from the plague-ridden city of Cambridge to his family home at Woolsthorpe Manor. It's a time of quiet, forced contemplation. The air is still. He sits, perhaps under the shade of a flower of Kent apple tree, his mind wrestling with the great questions of motion and the cosmos. He sees an apple detach from its stem. It doesn't hesitate. It doesn't drift. It falls. Directly. Purposefully. Downwards. And the question that sparked a revolution was not that it fell, but why it fell so specifically. Why always straight down, towards the center of the earth? And more profoundly, how far does this pull extend? Does it stop at the tops of the trees? At the clouds? Or does it, perhaps, keep going? He looked up and saw the moon, and wondered if the same force that governed the apple's fall also governed the moon's orbit. Back in the late 1600s, this was a radical idea, but Newton, with his unparalleled mathematical mind, proposed that gravity was a force, an invisible, universal tug that all objects with mass exert on one another. You, me, the moon, your pillow, your peacefully sleeping dog, we are all, in this very moment, pulling on each other, just a tiny, infinitesimal bit. The earth, however, being so very big and round and full of itself, pulls a lot harder. Its gravitational voice is a roar that drowns out the whispers of everything else. That's why you fall down, not sideways. When you trip, that's why the apple falls to the earth, and not the other way around, though, in a very real sense, the apple's tiny gravity does pull the earth up to meet it, just by an immeasurably small amount. According to Newton's laws, the more mass an object has, the stronger its gravitational pull, and the closer you are to it, the stronger the effect. This simple, elegant relationship explains so much. It's why the sun, with its colossal mass, is the anchor of our solar system, keeping all the planets, from Mercury to Neptune, in their steady, predictable orbits. It's massive, and we are relatively close, not hugging distance close, thankfully just a comfortable 93 million miles away. Newton's model was brilliant. It was a triumph of the human intellect. For the first time, a single law could predict how apples fall on Earth, and how planets move in the heavens. It allowed us to calculate the trajectory of cannonballs, to understand the rhythm of the tides, and to see the universe as a grand, orderly, and predictable clockwork mechanism. It was a vision of profound harmony, and it held up for over 200 years. But then, along came another dreamer, a man with a twinkle in his eye, a rebellious shock of hair, and a deep fondness for turning things inside out. His name was Albert Einstein, and in 1915, he published a new story about gravity. A story so strange and beautiful it would forever change our understanding of reality. He proposed his theory of general relativity, and in it, he reimagined gravity, not as a force at all, but as a feature of the universe itself, a kind of curvature in the very fabric of space and time. Let's try to visualize this. Imagine the universe is a vast, stretchy rubber sheet. Now, place a heavy bowling ball on it. Let's say this bowling ball is the sun. The sheet sags under its weight, creating a deep, curved well in the fabric. Now, roll a small marble nearby. Let's call this marble the Earth. The marble will not travel in a straight line. It will curve inwards, spiraling around the indentation created by the bowling ball. It does this not because the bowling ball is actively pulling it with some invisible rope, but because it is simply following the straightest possible path on a now curved surface. In other words, according to Einstein, gravity isn't something the sun does to the Earth. It's simply the way the Earth moves through the curved spacetime that the sun's mass creates. Planets aren't being yanked around the sun. They are coasting, following the natural, geometric contours of a very bendy universe. Now, this might be the part of our journey where your pillow starts to feel unusually heavy. That's perfectly all right. Let these big ideas be a gentle weight on your mind. Let your thoughts float, even if the space-time around you doesn't. So, we have two beautiful ideas. Newton said gravity is a force. Einstein said it's a feature of geometry. And in a wonderful way, both are right. In their own domains, Newton's equations work beautifully for almost everything in our everyday experience. Calculating the orbits of satellites, the flight of a baseball, the slow, agonizing fall of your toast. But Einstein's model kicks in when things get really weird, really massive, or really fast. It's essential for understanding black holes, for explaining the way light from distant stars bends as it passes the sun, or for accounting for the slight, but crucial, slowing of time experienced by our GPS satellites. Yes, you heard that right. Time itself ticks at different rates in different gravitational fields. This has been measured. A clock at the top of a mountain runs just a tiny bit faster than a clock at sea level. Your head, at this very moment, is experiencing time slightly faster than your feet. It's not enough for you to time travel, or even to notice, but it's just enough to make physicists very excited and GPS engineers very, very nervous. Without correcting for this relativistic effect, GPS systems would be off by miles every single day. If this is all starting to sound like science fiction, I promise you, we are still firmly in the realm of established, tested science. Gravity affects space. It affects time. It affects light. And as we will soon see, it even affects your own sense of direction. It is the reason astronauts on the International Space Station feel weightless, not because gravity has vanished up there, but because they are in a constant, perfect state of free fall. They are perpetually falling around the Earth, not into it, like being on a roller coaster loop that never, ever ends. Let this idea settle gently in your mind as we prepare to move on. Gravity isn't just a pull. It's the quiet choreography of the cosmos. It tells planets how to orbit, stars how to form, and galaxies how to dance. It governs the tides on our oceans and the seasons of our year. And yet, it never makes a sound. It is the softest of rulers, and perhaps the most essential. So the next time you feel your body sinking into your mattress, remember what you are feeling. It is the embrace of the planet, holding you close, not with force, not with flair, just with a quiet, universal, geometric persistence. So, with these ideas of Newton and Einstein gently floating in our minds, let's begin our ascent. Imagine yourself now, lifting off from your resting place. You float up, through the ceiling, through the night sky, rising higher and higher. The lights of your town or city shrink below, becoming a golden web on a dark landscape. You rise through the thin, cold air of the upper atmosphere until the blue of the sky fades to a deep, stardusted black. You've made it. You're in space. You are floating, arms outstretched. You give a little push with your mind, and you begin to tumble, slowly, end over end. A pen from a forgotten pocket detaches and drifts past your nose in lazy, slow motion. The earth hangs below you, a breathtaking, silent, swirling marble of blue, white, and green. It feels like magic. It feels like freedom. It feels weightless. But here's the curious thing. The central secret of our journey tonight. You are not actually weightless. Wait. What? That's right. Despite how it feels, gravity has not let go of you. Not even close. In fact, if you were floating alongside the International Space Station, roughly 400 kilometers or 250 miles above the Earth, the force of gravity is still about 90% as strong as it is on the surface. You are still firmly within the powerful grasp of Earth's gravity. So why do you float? Why do astronauts feel weightless if gravity is still so strong? The reason is because they are in a constant, continuous state of freefall. Let's explain that in the sleepest way possible. Let's use Newton's old thought experiment of the cannon on the mountain. Imagine you are on a very, very tall mountain. So tall its peak scrapes the edge of space. You drop a cannonball, and it falls straight down. Now, you fire it from the cannon. It travels in a long arc and lands hundreds of miles away. Now, you use an immense amount of gunpowder. You fire the cannonball forward so fast at about 28,000 kilometers per hour, or 17,500 miles per hour that something incredible happens. The cannonball begins to fall towards the Earth, pulled by gravity. But as it falls, its immense forward speed means it's also traveling across the Earth. And because the Earth is round, the surface of the Earth is constantly curving away beneath the falling cannonball. If you get the speed just right, the rate at which the cannonball falls is perfectly matched by the rate at which the Earth's surface curves away. So, it falls, and falls, and falls, but it never gets any closer to the ground. It is perpetually falling, but perpetually missing. You're not hovering, you're orbiting. This is exactly what astronauts and the International Space Station are doing. They were carried up by a rocket and then essentially thrown sideways at a very high speed. From that moment on, they have been in a state of continuous freefall. They are falling around the Earth, not into it. So, when we use the term zero gravity, what we really mean is microgravity. It's not the absence of gravity. It's the experience of weightlessness that occurs when you are in freefall. Let's use Einstein's elevator analogy again. Imagine you are in that elevator, and the cables snap. For those few terrifying seconds, everything inside you seems to float. The apple you were holding, your cup of tea, you yourself, everything drifts weightlessly beside you. You haven't escaped gravity, you have simply surrendered to it. And everything around you is surrendering at the same rate. So, nothing is pushing against anything else. The floor isn't pushing against your feet. Your hand isn't pushing against the apple. The feeling of weight, which is just the feeling of a surface pushing back against you, vanishes. Life on the ISS is exactly like being in that falling elevator, except without the terror, with much better snacks, and the fall never, ever ends. Astronauts live and work in this state of perpetual freefall for months at a time. And while it looks like effortless fun, and you've probably seen the videos of them flipping around and chasing floating emmys, it has all kinds of strange and profound consequences for the human body and mind. For one thing, your inner ear gets completely confused. As we explored before, it relies on gravity to tell you which way is up. When that constant downward signal vanishes, your brain receives a stream of nonsensical data. The first few days in orbit, the brain often responds with a kind of sensory conflict sickness, very similar to seasickness. Nausea and disorientation are common. Astronauts have to learn to navigate a world where down is simply wherever their feet happen to be pointing. In this microgravity environment, Newton's other laws come vividly to life. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If you push off a wall to propel yourself across a module, you have to be prepared to absorb the impact at the other end. If you try to turn a stiff bolt with a wrench, you are just as likely to turn yourself as you are to turn the bolt. Every simple task becomes an exercise in physics and careful adaptation. Imagine trying to brush your teeth, but the toothpaste, a weightless blob, tries to escape from the brush. Imagine using a bathroom without the benefit of gravity helping to keep things where they should be. Astronauts have to learn how to move, sleep, and eat all over again, as if all the training their bodies received on Earth was for a different sport entirely. And speaking of sleeping, astronauts don't really need pillows or beds. They float inside sleeping bags that are tethered to a wall, so they don't bump into anything in the night. There's no tossing or turning, no pressure points on the body, just a gentle, suspended, floating rest in a private cocoon of silence. Some astronauts report having the best, most restful sleep of their lives. Others find it disorienting and miss the familiar, comforting pressure of a mattress. But perhaps the most intriguing thing about experiencing microgravity isn't just what it does to the body, but what it teaches us about how deeply gravity shapes our perception of the world. Here on Earth, we take 1,000 things for granted. We take for granted that objects, when dropped, will fall, that water will pour downwards, that food will stay on our plate and our chair will stay on the floor. In space, all of these fundamental rules of our reality are rewritten. Water forms floating, quivering blobs that cling to surfaces like little jellyfish. Food must be sealed, or sticky, or otherwise contained, lest a stray crumb become a floating hazard. You don't walk anywhere. You pull yourself, hand over hand, through the modules. There is no down. There is only where your feet are tethered. Astronauts often describe their first days in orbit as being disorienting, both physically and psychologically, but over time, their remarkable brains adapt. New habits form, new neural pathways are forged, microgravity becomes the new normal. And then, when they return home, that's when things get weird all over again. They have to readapt to a world of weight. Astronauts have been known to forget that they can't just let go of objects. They'll release a tool or a cup and be startled when it clatters to the floor instead of hovering. They trip over their own feet, their brains still not fully reconnected to their vestibular systems. One cosmonaut reported that, in his first few nights back, he almost floated out of bed when he tried to turn over. So, when we say that floating in space is being weightless, it's more accurate to say that your body feels weightless. But gravity has never left the room. It is still there, pulling on you with almost the same force as it is right now. It is just pulling on you in a way that your senses, tuned for life on the surface, can't quite comprehend. And in that gentle, perceptual confusion lies a kind of profound beauty, because it reminds us that gravity isn't just a force we deal with. It's the very context of our existence. It's the silent, invisible partner in everything we are, and everything we do. We have felt the fall. We have understood the orbit. Now, let us untether ourselves completely and drift through the airlock of the International Space Station. Let's spend an extended, quiet time here, not as a visitor, but as a resident, observing the intricate ballet of daily life in this most extraordinary of homes. From the outside, the ISS looks a bit like a high-tech tin can with sprawling solar wings, a delicate dragonfly of metal and silicon against the black of space. But inside, it is a world unto itself, a carefully engineered ecosystem, a laboratory, and for 6 human beings at a time, a floating home circling the Earth every 90 minutes. The first thing that greets you is not silence, but a continuous, gentle hum. It is the sound of survival, the constant whirring of fans circulating the air you breathe, the gurgle of pumps moving coolants to manage the extreme temperatures, the quiet electronic beeps of systems monitoring every aspect of this fragile, man-made biosphere. It's a sound that new astronauts find distracting at first, but which soon becomes a comforting, ever-present lullaby, the mechanical heartbeat of their home. So, how do you live in a world where microgravity reigns? A world where everything that isn't tied down will eventually, gently, float away. You learn a new way of being. You learn the art of containment. Let's begin with a task as simple as eating. On Earth, eating is an act governed by gravity. Gravity does the heavy lifting, keeping your food on your plate, your drink in your cup, and your soup in your bowl. In space, none of that works. The rules are rewritten. Liquids, freed from gravity's pull, coalesce into shimmering, wobbly spheres due to surface tension. Food crumbles, and those rogue bits of cracker or tortilla can become a serious hazard if they drift into a sensitive ventilation fan or, worse, an astronaut's eye. That's why astronaut food is a marvel of food engineering. Most meals come in sealed, full pouches, either freeze-dried or thermostabilized. To prepare a meal, you might inject hot or cold water into a pouch of dehydrated spaghetti bolognese, then knead it for a few minutes until it's ready. You eat directly from the pouch with a long-handled spoon. The food itself is often designed to be sticky or cohesive, to cling to the spoon. And the spoon, it's likely to have a patch of Velcro on its handle, so you can stick it to a patch on your pants or the wall when you're not using it. Losing your cutlery mid-meal is surprisingly easy when it doesn't stay put. Fun fact: tortillas are overwhelmingly preferred over bread in space. Why? Because they don't produce crumbs. The crumb problem was discovered on the Gemini 3 mission in 1965, when astronaut John Young smuggled a corned beef sandwich on board. When he took a bite, crumbs floated everywhere, posing a potential threat to the spacecraft's electronics. Since then, bread has been largely off the menu. In microgravity, a wayward cornflake is not a trivial annoyance. It's a potential villain. Even salt and pepper can't be used in their crystalline form. They are suspended in liquid salt in a water solution and pepper in oil and dispensed as droplets, so they can be aimed directly onto the food. Now, let us imagine the act of sleeping. In space, you don't lie down. There is no down to lie upon. So, astronauts sleep in small, phone booth-sized crew cabins, which offer a rare slice of privacy. Inside, they zip themselves into sleeping bags that are tethered to the wall, the ceiling, or any other surface that feels cozy. Some prefer to be held tightly by the bag, simulating the pressure of a blanket. Others prefer to be loose, floating freely within the confines of the bag. There is no pressure on your back, no weight on your joints, just a feeling of gentle, neutral buoyancy. Most astronauts report that, once they get used to it, it is an incredibly restful state. No tossing, no turning, just a kind of gentle suspension in a quiet, dark cocoon. Though occasionally, a new astronaut forgets to zip the bag up properly, and their arms might float out in the night. Or they might drift out of the bag entirely, waking up as they gently bump into the opposite wall. Sleepwalking is a complicated affair when there's no floor. Then there's the challenge of personal hygiene. Taking a bath is out of the question. A shower, not in the traditional sense. Water doesn't fall in space, so you can't stand under it. Early space stations experimented with shower stalls, but they were cumbersome and difficult to manage. Today, astronauts take sponge baths. They use a pouch of water, squeezing out a warm, clinging blob, which they catch with a washcloth. They use rinseless soaps and no-rinse shampoos, which are massaged into the hair and then toweled off. It's a functional, if not luxurious, way to stay clean. And the space toilet, officially called the waste and hygiene compartment, deserves its own award for engineering. There's no gravity to, well, help things along their natural course. So, space toilets use a system of fans and airflow, essentially a vacuum system, to pull waste away from the body and into the proper receptacles. Using it requires skill and precision. Astronauts use foot straps and thigh harnesses to secure themselves to the seat, and they have to aim very carefully. Yes, there is a training toilet on Earth, complete with a camera, to help them practice their aim. It can be an awkward process. Urine is collected, and on the ISS, it goes through a sophisticated water purification system. This system recycles the urine and sweat from the cabin air back into clean, drinkable water. NASA has a famous slogan for this process: "Today's coffee is tomorrow's coffee." It might sound unappealing, but it's a vital, life-sustaining example of a closed-loop system. Water is heavy and expensive to launch from Earth, so every single drop counts. How about getting around? Astronauts don't walk, they float. To move, they learn a kind of three-dimensional intuition. A gentle push off a wall with their hands or feet sends them gliding gracefully through the narrow, crowded modules. At least, that's the idea. In reality, for newcomers, it's often more like a controlled ricocheting, bumping into walls, twisting mid-air, overshooting your target, and doing a slow, awkward spin while trying to grab a handrail to stay put while working. They use a network of foot loops, handrails, and Velcro. So much Velcro. Everything that is not a permanent part of the station is covered in it. Clipboards, tools, laptops, food pouches. You don't place something down. You attach it, or it will join the small constellation of other lost items, floating off on its own quiet, orbital path. It is a world of constant, mindful adaptation, where the simplest tasks of earthly life are transformed into complex, zero-G puzzles. It is a testament to the remarkable flexibility of the human mind and body, our ability to learn new rules and make a home in the most alien of environments. So far, life in space sounds like a kind of dreamy, floating ballet, doesn't it? No gravity, no rushing. You float from task to task like an underwater ballerina. The Earth glows below like a nightlight for the galaxy. And your hair is always, effortlessly, voluminous. But for all its wonder, for all its graceful choreography, a prolonged stay in space has a quiet cost. The human body, that masterpiece of evolution so perfectly tuned to life on Earth, begins a slow, silent, and profound protest against this new, weightless reality. Tonight, we're going to explore what microgravity really does to the human body, the strange shifts, the surprising challenges, and the hidden ways that gravity has been shaping us all along. Because here's the secret: your body loves gravity. It's used to it. It has been dancing with it since the moment you were born. Gravity tells your muscles when to flex, your bones how to grow strong, and your blood where to go. Without that constant, invisible pull, your body starts to ask, in its own cellular language, wait, what are we doing? What is our purpose now? Let's start with something subtle, a change that begins almost immediately upon reaching orbit: fluid shift. On Earth, gravity relentlessly pulls about 2 liters of your bodily fluids, blood, water, lymph downwards into the lower half of your body. Your heart and your vascular system work constantly to counteract this, pumping it all back up. It's a lifelong workout. But in space, with no down, this system is thrown into chaos. The fluids, no longer tethered, redistribute themselves evenly throughout the body. But this even distribution feels all wrong. A significant amount of fluid moves from your legs up into your chest and head. This is what leads to the two most visible symptoms of space adaptation: a puffy face and skinny legs. Astronauts often call this the Charlie Brown effect, a large, round head on a thin body. Your face becomes swollen. Your sinuses feel permanently congested, as if you have a perpetual head cold. Your voice might even change, becoming more nasal. Your legs, on the other hand, can lose up to 10% of their volume, becoming thin bird legs. This fluid shift also has more serious consequences. The body's internal sensors, located in the chest and neck, detect this increased fluid in the upper body and get fooled. They send a signal to the brain that says, "Warning, the body has too much fluid." The brain, in turn, tells the kidneys to get rid of this phantom excess. So, astronauts' bodies begin to excrete vital water and electrolytes, putting them in a state of mild but constant dehydration and reducing their overall blood volume. This shift can also affect the eyes. For some astronauts, the increased pressure in the skull from the upward floating fluid can press on the back of the eyeball, slightly flattening it and pushing on the optic nerve. This condition, known as spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, or SANS, can cause changes in vision. Some astronauts return to Earth needing glasses for the first time, or with a different prescription. It is one of the top medical concerns for long-duration spaceflight. And speaking of a lack of pressure, let's talk about your bones and muscles. On Earth, even just standing still is a workout. Your skeleton is constantly bearing your weight, and your postural muscles are constantly firing to keep you upright. This stress is a vital signal that tells your body to maintain a strong framework. In space, with no weight to bear, this signal vanishes. The body, being ruthlessly efficient, begins to deconstruct what it no longer perceives as necessary. The bones are a prime target. Without the daily stress of walking and standing, they begin to shed calcium. Astronauts can lose bone density at a rate of 1 to 2% per month. This is a rate of aging 10 to 20 times faster than on Earth, similar to what is seen in patients with advanced osteoporosis. The hips, lower back, and legs are the most vulnerable. This lost calcium doesn't just disappear. It enters the bloodstream, which can increase the risk of kidney stones. And this bone loss is not always fully reversible upon returning to Earth. Muscles suffer a similar fate. The large, weight-bearing muscles of the legs and back, no longer needed to fight gravity, begin to atrophy, to waste away. Without intervention, astronauts could lose up to 20% of their muscle mass on a 6-month mission. This is why exercise in space is not about fitness or aesthetics. It is a critical medical countermeasure. The 2 hours of rigorous daily exercise on the treadmill and resistance machine is a relentless battle to trick their bodies into remembering Earth, to convince their cells not to abandon the strength that will be so vital for their return. Even your heart gets a little lazy. In microgravity, it doesn't have to work as hard to pump blood up to the brain. The workload drops. The heart, being a muscle, can actually shrink slightly in size and become more spherical. When astronauts come back to Earth, they can sometimes feel lightheaded or dizzy upon standing up, a condition called orthostatic intolerance, because their cardiovascular system has temporarily forgotten how to deal with the sudden demands of gravity. And then there's your spine. Without the compressive force of gravity constantly pushing down on it, the soft, cushion-like discs between your vertebrae are free to expand. This causes astronauts to temporarily grow taller in space, sometimes by as much as 2 inches. It sounds like a nice perk, until you remember that you're living in a precisely engineered metal tube, and you have to fit back into your custom-molded Soyuz seat for the fiery ride home. But these biological changes, as challenging as they are not all bad news. Living in space has become the ultimate laboratory for understanding the human body. By studying what happens when we take gravity away, we learn just how essential it is for everything. The research done on astronaut bone loss directly helps doctors develop treatments for osteoporosis on Earth. The study of muscle atrophy in space informs therapies for patients who are bedridden or have muscle-wasting diseases. Space medicine is helping Earth medicine, one floating human experiment at a time. It shows us, in the starkest possible terms, that we are creatures of gravity, and that our bodies are in a constant, delicate, and beautiful dance with the planet we call home. Let's take a moment now to appreciate something that rarely gets the spotlight in our dreamy explorations of the cosmos. Something that doesn't sparkle or bend spacetime. Something that often looks clunky and utilitarian. Let's appreciate space engineering. It may not have the romance of a swirling nebula or the philosophical depth of relativity, but it is the quiet, unsung hero of our entire journey. It's the reason astronauts don't freeze, or starve, or drift endlessly into the void. It is the practical, problem-solving genius that makes life possible in an environment that is fundamentally hostile to it. And at the heart of every single engineering decision, every bolt, every wire, every line of code, is a familiar, invisible force, gravity, or, more accurately, the challenges posed by its absence in orbit, and its immense power on the launch pad. Let's start with the most dramatic challenge, launching. To get into space, you first have to win a brute force battle against Earth's gravity. Our planet's gravitational pull is relentless. To break free from its immediate grasp and achieve a stable orbit, a rocket needs to reach a speed of about 17,500 miles per hour to escape Earth's gravity entirely and travel to another planet. It needs to hit escape velocity, which is about 25,000 miles per hour, or roughly 33 times the speed of sound. This requires an astonishing amount of energy. That's why rockets are not sleek, elegant vehicles. They are essentially controlled explosions, gargantuan towers of fuel tanks and engines, all designed for one purpose: to generate enough upward thrust to overcome the planet's downward pull. When you look at a rocket like the Saturn V that took us to the moon, or a modern Falcon Heavy, most of what you are seeing is not the payload, not the tiny capsule carrying the crew or the satellites. The vast majority of its size and weight is fuel. Enormous, elegant cylinders of liquid oxygen and kerosene or liquid hydrogen. All of it destined to be burned in a matter of minutes to fight that one single, constant force. The engineering of launch is the engineering of pure, overwhelming power. And once you're up there, in orbit, gravity doesn't leave you alone. It just changes its role. It's no longer the adversary to be overcome, but the partner in a delicate, high-speed dance. Your spacecraft must work with gravity. Your orbital altitude and speed must be perfectly balanced to maintain that state of perpetual freefall we talked about. Go too slow, and you'll fall back to Earth. Go too fast, and you'll fly off into a higher, less stable orbit, or escape into deep space. The job of the flight controllers on the ground, and the spacecraft's own guidance systems, is to constantly monitor and adjust this dance, ensuring the spacecraft stays in its precise orbital groove. Even the shape of a spacecraft is determined by gravity. The blunt, rounded shape of capsules like the Apollo, Soyuz, or SpaceX's Dragon isn't chosen for aesthetics. It's a design dictated by the physics of re-entry. When the capsule returns to Earth, it uses the friction of the atmosphere to slow down, and that friction generates immense heat. The blunt body shape helps to create a powerful shockwave in front of the capsule, which pushes the hottest plasma away from the heat shield. It uses the atmosphere and the planet's gravitational pull as a brake. A test of engineering, physics, and sheer material strength. Gravity becomes the final, fiery boss at the end of every mission. Now, let's head inside the spacecraft, where the engineering challenges become more subtle and intricate. In the microgravity environment, every movement matters. There's no friction from the air to naturally slow things down. A drop screw doesn't fall. It becomes a tiny, silent projectile until it hits something. If you open a bag of nuts too fast, its contents will scatter like glitter at a toddler's birthday party. So, engineers have to design every tool, every button, every panel, and every drawer to work without gravity's help. This means Velcro on everything, bungee cords for storage, foot loops and handrails so astronauts can anchor themselves while they work. Tools are tethered, laptops are strapped down. You don't place something down, you secure it. Engineers even have to consider things like airflow. On Earth, gravity helps with air circulation. Through convection warm air rises, cool air sinks. In orbit, there's no such luck. The air doesn't flow, it stagnates. An astronaut could, in theory, create a bubble of their own exhaled carbon dioxide around their head as they sleep, and suffocate. That's why the station is filled with a network of fans and ducts, constantly keeping the air moving, scrubbing out the CO2, and keeping the smells manageable. The life support system is perhaps the most impressive piece of quiet engineering. It is a miniature Earth ecosystem. It maintains the temperature, the humidity, and the precise oxygen-nitrogen balance of the air. It filters out trace gases and microbial growth, and, as we've discussed, it recycles water with incredible efficiency. It's like living inside a high-tech aquarium, except the fish have PhDs and treadmills. Speaking of treadmills, exercise equipment must be completely reimagined for space. On Earth, a treadmill works because gravity is pulling you down onto the belt. In space, an astronaut would just float away. So, they have to strap themselves down with bungee harnesses to simulate their body weight. Resistance machines can't use weights, so they use powerful vacuum cylinders or complex flywheel systems to provide the resistance their muscles need to fight against. These devices are crucial. They are not a gym. They are a medical facility, essential for preventing the debilitating effects of bone and muscle loss. And what about the most iconic piece of space engineering? The spacesuit. That iconic white marshmallow armor is not a piece of clothing. It is a personal spacecraft. On Earth, a suit like the ones used for spacewalks weighs nearly 300 pounds. In orbit, that weight vanishes, but its mass, its inertia, remains. An astronaut moving in a suit has to be careful. If they push off the station too hard, they could go spinning off into the void. Every inch of the suit is a marvel of gravity-defying design. It has to maintain internal pressure to keep the astronaut alive. It provides pure oxygen to breathe. It has a liquid cooling garment to regulate body temperature. It has a communication system, a helmet with a sun visor, and gloves that are both durable enough to withstand the vacuum and flexible enough to allow the astronauts to grip tools. And what happens if, despite all precautions, an astronaut becomes untethered and floats away? They have a backup system, a small, nitrogen-propelled jetpack called Safer. It allows them to make small, controlled puffs of gas to maneuver themselves back to the safety of the station. Not dramatic, not flashy, just a calm, engineered solution to a terrifying problem. So yes, even though space is often defined by the absence of gravity, our entire approach to exploring it is built around grappling with gravity's memory, its power, and its influence. We build rockets to escape it. We design orbits to dance with it. We engineer our internal environments to replace its helpful effects. And we are always aware of its presence. The silent, invisible engineer that shapes every decision. By now, we have seen how gravity shapes life on a human scale. We have explored our bodies, our technology, our homes both on the ground and in orbit. We have felt its pull and we have danced in its absence. But we have only been looking at the local effects, the intimate relationship between humanity and our home planet. To truly understand the power, the patience, and the sheer artistry of gravity, we must now let our perspective expand. We must zoom out, far beyond the confines of our solar system, until the sun itself becomes just another anonymous star in a city of billions. We must continue outwards until our own Milky Way galaxy is but one island of light in a vast, dark, cosmic ocean. Out here, in the unimaginable vastness of intergalactic space, gravity reveals its true, grand identity. It is not just a force that pulls things down. It is a sculptor. It is a patient artist. It is the grand architect of the universe. Let us begin our grand tour on a scale that is still vast, but comprehensible. Let us journey to a stellar nursery, a place of creation, like the Great Orion Nebula, a glowing jewel in our winter sky. From Earth, it looks like a faint, fuzzy star, but up close, it is a breathtaking spectacle. Imagine vast, towering clouds of cold hydrogen gas and cosmic dust, structures stretching for light years, illuminated from within by the brilliant, piercing light of newborn stars. They are ghostly, celestial mountains, painted in ethereal hues of pink, magenta, and deep, shadowy blue, for millions upon millions of years. This cloud is a place of serene, poised chaos. Individual atoms of gas and tiny grains of dust drift in a slow, silent, and lonely ballet. The cloud is mostly empty space, a diffuse and tranquil fog. But the architect is already at work, quietly, patiently, relentlessly. Gravity, it is the quiet shepherd of this cosmic flock. It begins its work with an almost imperceptible nudge, in a region of the cloud that is, by pure chance, just infinitesimally denser than the space around it. The gravitational pull is infinitesimally stronger. This tiny, statistical advantage is the seed of a star. Over the course of eons, this seed begins to grow. The slightly denser region pulls in more gas and dust from its surroundings. As its mass increases, its gravitational voice grows stronger, changing from a whisper to a gentle call, attracting still more material. It is a slow, unstoppable feedback loop, a process of gravitational amplification that plays out over millions of years. Slowly, within the vast nebula, great, dense clumps begin to form, like knots in a cosmic skein of yarn. These clumps, known as protostars, contract under the crushing force of their own gravity. As the gas particles fall inward, they collide, and their gravitational potential energy is converted into heat. The core of the protostar begins to warm, first to a few thousand degrees, then tens of thousands. It begins to glow, a dull, deep red, a hidden ember buried deep within its dusty cocoon. As it continues to accrete mass, the pressure and temperature at its center climb relentlessly, into the millions of degrees. The core becomes a seething plasma. And then, when the temperature at the very center reaches a critical threshold about 15 million degrees Celsius, a miracle occurs. The conditions become so extreme that the fundamental electromagnetic repulsion between atomic nuclei is overcome. Hydrogen atoms, the simplest building blocks of the universe, are slammed together with such violence that they fuse to form the element helium. This is the moment of ignition. This is nuclear fusion. In that instant, a star is born. A tremendous wave of energy, in the form of photons and radiation, pushes outwards from the core. This outward radiation pressure creates a force that finally stands up to, and perfectly balances, the inward crush of gravity. The star achieves a state of delicate, stable, hydrostatic equilibrium. It ceases to be a collapsing cloud and becomes a stable, shining beacon of light and heat. An equilibrium it will maintain for billions of years. This is how our sun was born. And it's how every star you see in the night sky began its luminous life, sculpted from a vast, cold cloud by the quiet, persistent, and creative insistence of gravity, not with a sudden bang, but with a gradual, patient tightening, like the universe drawing a slow, deep, and creative breath. Now, let us zoom out further. These stars, born from the same parent cloud, rarely exist in isolation. Gravity keeps these sibling stars together in brilliant families. Some are small, loose associations of young, hot, blue stars, known as open clusters. Others are ancient, vast, spherical swarms called globular clusters, containing hundreds of thousands, or even millions, of old, yellow and red stars, all packed tightly together in a beautiful, glittering ball, orbiting the center of their host galaxy. And over even longer timescales, these clusters, along with billions of other individual stars, and vast clouds of gas and dust, are orchestrated by gravity into something far grander, a galaxy. Galaxies are gravity's most elegant and breathtaking creations. Our own Milky Way is a majestic barred spiral, a swirling, luminous city of an estimated 200 to 400 billion stars. Imagine the view from outside. Great, sweeping spiral arms, glowing with the blue light of young, massive stars and traced with the dark, intricate lanes of cosmic dust. These arms are dotted with the pinkish-red haze of star-forming regions, the stellar nurseries where the next generation of stars is being born. All of this swirls around a bright, dense central bulge, crowded with older, yellower stars, and at its very heart, a supermassive black hole. The entire, colossal structure, 100,000 light-years across, is bound together by gravity. It is a cosmic carousel, a celestial whirlpool, turning in the silent darkness. The stars within it are moving at incredible speeds, hundreds of kilometers per second, and yet, they do not fly apart into the void. Why? Because gravity, the combined pull of all the other stars, the gas, the dust, and something else entirely, keeps them tethered in their great, cosmic dance. and that something else is one of the deepest and most profound mysteries in all of science. When astronomers, most famously Vera Rubin in the 1970s, measured the speeds of stars orbiting within galaxies, they found something deeply unsettling. The stars, especially those in the outer regions, were moving far too fast. The gravity from all the visible matter, all the stars, gas, and dust that we can see and account for, was not nearly enough to hold on to them. According to our understanding of gravity, these galaxies should have spun themselves apart billions of years ago, flinging their stars into the intergalactic void. The only conclusion that fits the observation is that there must be a vast amount of extra, invisible matter, providing the additional gravitational glue needed to hold the galaxies together. We have given this mysterious, invisible substance a name: dark matter. We cannot see it. We cannot touch it. It does not seem to interact with light or with any other form of normal matter in any way we can detect, except through its immense gravitational influence. It is a vast, invisible halo of mass that envelops every galaxy. A silent, unseen majority. It is the gravitational scaffolding, the invisible framework upon which the luminous, beautiful structures of the universe are built. The glowing stars and galaxies we see are just the decorative lights, the visible foam on the crest of a much larger, darker, and more mysterious cosmic ocean. Dark matter, it is now believed, makes up about 85% of all the matter in the cosmos. And with this understanding, let us zoom out one final time to the largest observable scales of the universe. Here, we see that the galaxies themselves, held together by this dark, invisible glue, are not scattered randomly like dust motes in a sunbeam. They are organized over the 13.8 billion year history of the cosmos. Gravity has woven them into a magnificent, filigree structure of unimaginable scale. It is known as the cosmic web. Imagine flying through this structure. You would see long, delicate filaments made of chains of galaxies, stretching for hundreds of millions of light years, like glowing threads of silk in a vast, dark tapestry. These filaments twist and weave through space, and where they intersect, they form bright, dense nodes. These nodes are the great clusters of galaxies, bustling cosmic metropolises containing thousands of individual galaxies, all bound together by their mutual gravity, all swimming in a vast sea of hot gas and an even deeper well of dark matter. And between these glowing filaments and bright nodes lie the great cosmic voids, vast, almost empty regions of space, hundreds of millions of light years across, where very few, if any, galaxies reside. They are the silent, dark, empty spaces in the grand cosmic design. This entire structure, this cosmic web, is the largest thing in the universe, and it was sculpted, patiently, meticulously, over billions of years, by the quiet, persistent, and creative hand of the universe's grand architect, gravity. For most of our journey so far, we have been thinking about gravity in the way that Isaac Newton first taught us. We've seen it as a force, an invisible, universal tether, a pull that acts across the vastness of space, holding apples to the earth and planets to the sun. It is an intuitive, powerful, and deeply useful way to understand our world, and for over 2 centuries, it was the final word. But as we know, the beautiful clockwork of Newton's universe had a few tiny, persistent glitches, and it took a new kind of dreamer, Albert Einstein, to realize that to fix the glitches, you couldn't just adjust the clockwork, you had to reinvent the very concepts of space and time. In 1915, Einstein published his theory of general relativity, and with it, he gave the universe a new story, a new shape. He asked us to let go of the idea of gravity as a force, and instead, to see it as a consequence of the geometry of the universe itself. Let us now drift slowly into this strange and beautiful Einsteinian dreamscape. Let us begin again with that central, powerful metaphor. I invite you to imagine the universe not as an empty, three-dimensional box that contains things, but as a single, unified, four-dimensional fabric. This fabric is called spacetime. It is a flexible, dynamic entity. In the absence of any matter or energy, this fabric would be perfectly flat, smooth, and featureless, stretching to infinity in all directions. But the universe is not empty. It is filled with matter and energy, and according to Einstein, mass and energy do something remarkable to this fabric. They bend it. They curve it. Let's return to the image of the cosmic rubber sheet. Let us place our sun, a heavy bowling ball, onto this sheet. The immense mass of the sun creates a deep, sloping depression in the fabric of spacetime around it. This curvature, this geometric well, is the sun's gravitational field. Now, let's roll a smaller marble, our planet Earth, onto the sheet. The marble tries to travel in a straight line, as all objects naturally do, but it cannot, because the very surface it is traveling on is curved. So, its path becomes a curve. It follows the contour of the depression created by the sun, rolling around and around in a stable, elliptical path. This is what an orbit is in Einstein's universe. It is not the result of a force pulling the planet. It is the result of the planet following the straightest possible line, a geodesic, through a curved, geometric landscape. The Earth is coasting. It is simply following the path of least resistance. The Moon, in turn, is coasting along the smaller curve created by the Earth, which is itself coasting along the great curve created by the Sun. It is a nested, silent, geometric dance. Mass tells spacetime how to curve, and the curvature of spacetime tells mass how to move. It is a beautiful, self-contained, and profoundly geometric idea. And what about you? Resting here now. You are also part of this geometric dance. The entire mass of the planet Earth is creating a significant, though gentle, curvature in the spacetime right here in your room. Your body, like any object, has a natural tendency to follow this curve, a path that would lead you towards the center of the Earth. But you are not falling. Why? Because the solid matter of your bed, your chair, the floor beneath you, is pushing back. It is obstructing your natural, geometric path. The feeling of weight that you experience is the sensation of this upward push from the surface beneath you. It is the feeling of matter resisting the natural, curved geometry of the cosmos. And this warping of the fabric of reality doesn't just affect the three dimensions of space. It also affects the fourth dimension, time. This is perhaps the most profound, poetic, and mind-bending consequence of general relativity. Time is not a universal, rigid metronome, ticking at the same rate for everyone. Everywhere in the universe, time is a local, flexible phenomenon. It is woven into the very fabric of spacetime. And when gravity stretches or compresses space, it does the same thing to time. Let's imagine the flow of time as a great, wide river, in the vast, flat plains of intergalactic space, where gravity is very weak. The river of time flows swiftly and smoothly, but near a massive object, like a star or a planet, the riverbed deepens into a gravitational well. The river of time must flow down into this well and back out again. And as it does so, its current slows. The stronger the gravity, the deeper the well, and the slower the river of time flows. This gravitational time dilation is not a piece of science fiction. It is a physical reality that has been measured with incredible precision using atomic clocks. A clock on the summit of a high mountain will tick ever so slightly faster than an identical clock at sea level. Your head, being slightly farther from the Earth's center of mass than your feet, is aging infinitesimally faster than your feet are. The difference is utterly negligible in our daily lives, but it points to a profound truth. Our experience of time's passage is not absolute. It is relative to our position in the great, undulating, gravitational landscape of the universe. This same bending of reality also affects the path of light. Even though a photon of light has no mass, it must travel through the medium of spacetime. And if spacetime is curved, then the path of light must also be curved. Einstein predicted that starlight passing near the Sun would be deflected by its gravity. In 1919, a famous eclipse expedition confirmed this prediction, showing that the apparent positions of stars near the limb of the eclipsed Sun were shifted, just as Einstein's theory said they would be. This was the first proof that made Einstein a household name, proving that gravity could, quite literally, bend light. Today, this phenomenon of gravitational lensing is a vital tool for astronomers. Massive clusters of galaxies, with their immense gravity, act as natural cosmic telescopes. They bend and magnify the light from even more distant galaxies located behind them, allowing us to see objects that would otherwise be too faint and too far away. We can study the way the light is distorted to map the distribution of the invisible dark matter that is doing most of the bending. In this way, gravity becomes not just the object of our study, but a powerful lens that helps us to see the deepest, most ancient corners of the universe. And finally, if space-time is a fabric, then it must be able to ripple. Einstein predicted that, when incredibly massive objects accelerate, such as to black holes spiraling into each other and merging, they should stir up the fabric of space-time, sending out waves of gravitational energy at the speed of light. These are not waves that travel through space. They are waves of space and time itself. As a wave passes by, it literally stretches and squeezes the geometry of reality. For a century, this was only a prediction, but in 2015, the LIGO observatories made one of the most incredible discoveries in the history of science. They detected the first faint, fleeting whisper of these gravitational waves. The event that created them was the collision of two black holes, more than 1 billion light-years away. The wave, by the time it reached Earth, was so faint that it stretched and squeezed the 4-kilometer-long arms of the detectors by a distance thousands of times smaller than the nucleus of an atom. It was a feat of measurement of almost impossible sensitivity, and with it, a new era of astronomy was born. We can now listen to the universe. We can hear the symphony of its most violent and energetic events. A silent music played on the very fabric of spacetime. So let us end this chapter by floating in this new, dynamic, Einsteinian reality. The universe is not a static stage with forces acting upon it. It is a living, breathing, geometric entity. You are resting in a gentle valley of a four-dimensional landscape. The very rhythm of your life is being set by the depth of that valley. And across the cosmos, the silent music of gravitational waves is constantly washing through you. Let this strange and beautiful idea be a gentle current, carrying you deeper into a state of quiet, cosmic wonder. We have seen gravity as a gentle pull, a cosmic architect, and a subtle bend in the fabric of reality. Now, let us journey to the place where gravity ceases to be gentle, where it is no longer just a curve, but a rupture, a place where its dominion is absolute, its power is unimaginable, and its nature confronts the very limits of our scientific understanding and our philosophical imagination. Let us drift, in the safety of our minds, towards the ultimate enigma of the cosmos, the most extreme and fascinating creation of gravity, a black hole. A black hole is the ghost of a dead star, but not just any star. It is the final fate of only the most massive stars in the universe, as we've learned. When a star at least 8 times more massive than our Sun exhausts its nuclear fuel, its core, which has been held up for billions of years by the outward pressure of fusion, finally succumbs to its own immense weight, it collapses catastrophically. If that collapsing core is massive enough, roughly more than 3 times the mass of our own Sun, there is no known force in the universe that can halt the collapse. The inward crush of gravity becomes infinitely powerful. The core is squeezed past the incredible density of a white dwarf. Where a teaspoon of matter weighs several tons, it is squeezed past the even more mind-boggling density of a neutron star. Where all the atoms have been crushed into a solid ball of neutrons, it just keeps collapsing. It is crushed until its entire colossal mass is concentrated into a single, infinitesimally small point of zero volume and, theoretically, infinite density. This point is called a singularity. At the singularity, our understanding of the universe ends. The elegant and powerful equations of Einstein's general relativity, which describe the curvature of spacetime so beautifully everywhere else, produce nonsensical answers of infinities. Here, in this single point, our 2 great pillars of modern physics, general relativity, our theory of the very large, and quantum mechanics, our theory of the very small and bizarre, give contradictory and irreconcilable answers. The known laws of physics, as we currently understand them, break down completely. What truly happens at the singularity? Is it a point of infinite density? Or does some new, as yet undiscovered theory of quantum gravity take over at these extreme scales, preventing a true singularity from forming and creating something even stranger? This is perhaps the greatest and most profound unsolved mystery in all of science. Around this central, unknowable singularity, the curvature of spacetime becomes extreme. Let's return to our rubber sheet analogy. A star or a planet creates a gentle well in the sheet. A black hole, however, is not a well. It is a puncture. It is a bottomless pit from which the sheet never recovers. It is a region of spacetime so profoundly warped by gravity that it tears a hole in the very fabric of reality. And this is what defines a black hole. It is not an object in space. It is a region of spacetime. This extreme curvature creates the most famous feature of a black hole: its event horizon. The event horizon is not a physical surface that you could touch or stand on. It is an informational boundary, a one-way door into oblivion. It is the precise distance from the central singularity, where the gravitational pull becomes so overwhelmingly strong that the escape velocity, the speed needed to get away, exceeds the speed of light. And since, according to Einstein, nothing in the universe can travel faster than light, anything that crosses the event horizon can never, ever leave. A spaceship, a planet, a wandering beam of light, it is all trapped forever. Its future path is sealed. Its fate is to fall inexorably towards the central singularity. Let us imagine we are observing a black hole from a safe, distant vantage point. It is, by its very nature, perfectly black. It emits no light of its own. It is a hole in the starry background of the cosmos, So how do we see one? We detect its presence indirectly, by its powerful gravitational effects on its immediate surroundings. We might observe a star, like our Sun, orbiting at incredible speed around a point in space that appears to be completely empty. The only explanation is that an unseen, compact, massive object, a black hole, is there, acting as its gravitational partner. Or, more dramatically, we might see a vast, swirling disk of gas and dust, called an accretion disk, circling the black hole like water spiraling down a cosmic drain. This material has been stripped from a nearby companion star or is from a gas cloud that wandered too close. As this material gets closer and closer to the event horizon, it is accelerated to nearly the speed of light. The friction within this rapidly spinning disk heats the gas to millions of degrees, causing it to glow with an incredible, fierce brilliance in X-rays and other forms of high-energy light. The accretion disk of a black hole can be one of the brightest and most energetic objects in the entire universe, a luminous scream from matter in its final moments before it takes its final, silent plunge across the event horizon. We can also see a black hole through the phenomenon of gravitational lensing. Its immense gravity so severely warps the spacetime around it that it can act as a powerful, albeit distorted, lens. It can bend the light from stars and entire galaxies located behind it, smearing their images into strange, beautiful arcs and even perfect circles, known as Einstein rings. Now, let us imagine we are brave, or perhaps profoundly foolish, enough to take a journey towards a black hole. You are in a sturdy, futuristic spacecraft, and your friend remains behind, watching you through a powerful telescope as you begin your descent into the black hole's gravitational well. Your friend would see some very strange relativistic effects. They would watch your clock, from their perspective, begin to tick more and more slowly. They would see the light from your ship's beacon become stretched to longer, redder wavelengths, a phenomenon known as gravitational redshift, as the light has to climb out of the deepening gravitational well to reach them. As you approach the very edge of the event horizon, you would appear to your friend to slow down to a complete stop. Your movements would become agonizingly slow, and then you would seem to freeze, your image becoming dimmer and redder, hovering at the brink for an eternity. Your friend would never, ever see you cross. But for you, inside your spacecraft, your experience would be entirely different. Your clock would tick normally. You would feel no jolt, no bang, no sign that you were crossing some special boundary. You would simply glide, weightlessly and peacefully, across this invisible line. The event horizon is a locally unremarkable place. It is only its global, inescapable property that is so dramatic. But the moment you cross, your fate is sealed. Inside the event horizon, the curvature of spacetime is so extreme that it fundamentally rewrites the rules of reality. The direction towards the singularity, which was once a direction in space, now becomes a direction in time. It becomes the future. All possible paths, every direction you could try to move your spacecraft, now lead inexorably towards the central singularity. It is as if space itself is falling into the singularity faster than the speed of light. And you, your ship, and even the light from your flashlight, are simply being carried along for the ride. There is no escape, because escaping would mean traveling backwards in time, which is impossible. What would you feel during this final plunge? The answer depends on the size of the black hole. For a smaller, stellar mass black hole, the tidal forces would be extreme. The gravitational pull on your feet would be so much stronger than the pull on your head that you would be stretched into a long, thin strand of atoms, a process that has been colorfully and terrifyingly nicknamed spaghettification, but for one of the supermassive black holes at the center of a galaxy. The event horizon is much larger, and the tidal forces at the brink are much gentler. You could, in theory, cross the event horizon without being immediately ripped apart. You would have some time to contemplate your fate in the strange, warped reality inside, before eventually, inevitably, meeting your end at the central singularity. And yet, for all their terrifying and reality-bending properties, black holes appear to be a fundamental and essential part of the cosmic ecosystem. As we've learned, astronomers have discovered that at the very heart of nearly every large galaxy, including our own Milky Way, there lies a supermassive black hole. These are not the ghosts of single stars, but monstrous behemoths, with masses ranging from millions to billions of times that of our Sun. Our galaxy's central black hole, known as Sagittarius A star, is a relatively modest one, weighing in at about 4 million solar masses. We are still not entirely sure how these giants formed. Perhaps they started as smaller black holes in the early universe that grew over billions of years by merging with other black holes and by steadily consuming vast amounts of gas and stars. Whatever their origin, they appear to have grown in tandem with their host galaxies. In a symbiotic relationship, their immense gravity acts as a central anchor, a gravitational hub around which the entire galaxy revolves. They can also act as powerful cosmic engines. The immense energy blasted out from their accretion disks can regulate the birth of new stars throughout the galaxy, sometimes triggering great bursts of star formation, and at other times, blowing away the necessary gas clouds and shutting it down. So, black holes are not just cosmic dead ends, not just one-way tickets to oblivion. They are both destroyers and creators. They are the ultimate expression of gravity's power, places where our understanding of physics breaks down and we are left in a state of profound awe and mystery. But they are also fundamental components of the cosmic ecosystem, shaping the birth, life, and evolution of the very galaxies they inhabit. They are a profound and humbling reminder that even in the most extreme, violent, and seemingly destructive corners of the universe, there is a deep, underlying, and creative order, an order sculpted by the patient, relentless, and mysterious hand of gravity. We have journeyed far and wide tonight. We have followed the path of gravity, from the gentle fall of a terrestrial apple to the spiraling arms of a distant galaxy. We have felt its constant, reassuring pull on our own bodies, and we have peered, in our minds, into the absolute, reality-bending dominion of a black hole. We have seen gravity as a force, a pull, a tether. We have seen it as a geometry, a curve, the very shape of spacetime. But now, as our long journey begins to draw to a close, let us take one final, gentle step. Let us drift beyond the realm of established, tested physics, into the misty, speculative, and beautiful landscapes where science meets philosophy, where the hard facts give way to profound questions, and where the very nature of gravity might be something even stranger, even more wondrous, than we have yet imagined. Let us now ask, in a soft, quiet whisper, a truly radical and profound question: what if gravity is not fundamental? What if this force, this curvature, this thing that seems to be the very bedrock of our physical reality, is not a part of the universe's original source code? What if, instead, it is a kind of grand illusion, a side effect, an emergent phenomenon that arises from a deeper, more fundamental level of reality that we are only just beginning to glimpse. This is the frontier of modern theoretical physics, a place of bold, beautiful, and sometimes bewildering ideas. And to explore it, we first need to become truly comfortable with that wonderful word, emergence. An emergent property, as we have touched on, is a property of a complex system that arises from the collective interactions of its simpler, individual parts, but is not a property that can be found in those parts themselves. Let us use a gentle, familiar analogy. Imagine a single molecule of water, H2O. That single molecule is not wet. It does not have the property of wetness. Wetness is a macroscopic, emergent property that arises only when you have trillions upon trillions of these molecules interacting together, clinging to each other through hydrogen bonds and interacting with a surface. Wetness is a property of the collective, not of the individual. Let's think of a single neuron in your brain. It is a remarkable biological cell, a tiny electrochemical switch. It can fire. It can pass a signal to its neighbors, but a single neuron is not conscious. It does not feel joy, or sadness, or wonder. Your consciousness, your very sense of self, is an emergent phenomenon that arises from the staggeringly complex, intricate, and dynamic dance of 86 billion of these simple neurons. The whole is so much more than the sum of its parts. Now, let us apply this profound and powerful idea to gravity. What if gravity is like wetness, or like consciousness? What if it is not a fundamental force woven into the very fabric of spacetime, but rather a statistical, collective effect that arises from the universe's deeper, informational nature? This is the core of a radical and deeply thought-provoking idea in modern physics known as entropic gravity, first proposed in its modern form by the physicist Eric Verlinde. This idea suggests that gravity is not a fundamental force of attraction at all, but a thermodynamic phenomenon. It suggests that gravity arises from the universe's relentless, unceasing drive towards a state of maximum entropy. We often think of entropy simply as a measure of disorder or messiness, and that is a good starting point. The second law of thermodynamics, one of the most unshakable and fundamental laws in all of physics, states that the total entropy of any isolated system will always tend to increase over time. A hot cup of coffee, left on a table, will always cool down, its concentrated heat energy spreading out into the room in a more disordered, higher entropy state. A perfectly built sandcastle on a beach will, over time, be weathered by wind and waves into a random, messy pile of sand. The universe, it seems, has a fundamental, built-in preference for chaos over order. But entropy is also, and perhaps more accurately, deeply connected to the concept of information. A low entropy state is a state about which we have a great deal of specific information. Think of a book. All the letters are arranged in a very specific, ordered way to convey information. This is a low entropy state. If you were to shred the book, you would have a high entropy pile of letters. The components are the same, but the information is lost. The universe, in its drive towards higher entropy, is also, in a very real sense, trying to hide or scramble information, to move towards states that are more statistically probable. So how could this possibly create the phenomenon we call gravity? The theory of entropic gravity suggests that space itself is like a kind of vast, cosmic hard drive, a holographic screen, and that information about the location and state of matter is encoded on this screen. When you bring two objects, like an apple and the earth, closer together, you are, in a very subtle, informational sense, reducing the total amount of information needed to describe their positions. You are creating a slightly more ordered state in the universe's information field. The universe, in its fundamental and relentless drive to maximize entropy, and thus scramble information, resists this ordering. It creates a statistical pressure, a force, that makes it feel as if the objects are attracting each other. In this strange, beautiful, and deeply counterintuitive view, the apple does not fall to the earth because of a Newtonian pull or an Einsteinian curve in spacetime. The apple falls because the configuration of apple and earth together is a more entropically favorable state for the universe's total information than the configuration of apple and earth apart. It is the most statistically probable outcome in a universe that is constantly trying to maximize its own messiness. Gravity, then, is not a fundamental force. It is a thermodynamic illusion, an emergent consequence of the universe's love of disorder. It is the ghost of thermodynamics. This line of thinking is also closely related to an even more profound and dizzying concept, the holographic principle. This idea, which was born from the strange and paradoxical mathematics of black holes, suggests that our entire three-dimensional universe might be a kind of grand, cosmic projection. It suggests that all of the information required to describe our universe, every star, every planet, every galaxy, every single atom in your body could be completely and losslessly encoded on a distant, two-dimensional surface at the very edge of the observable cosmos. In this view, the 3D world that we perceive, with all its richness, depth, and apparent solidity, would be like a complex, interactive hologram, generated from a flat, 2D source code or hard drive. The world would feel real, just as a hologram looks real and three-dimensional, but it would not be the fundamental level of reality. And gravity, in this holographic universe, gravity might be one of the key features of the projection itself. It might not exist at all in the fundamental 2D reality, but emerges as a necessary illusion to make the 3D hologram consistent and coherent. It would be, in the truest and most literal sense, a trick of the light. It is very important, as we float here in these deep, speculative waters, to pause and breathe. These are not established, proven facts. They are not things to be memorized for an examination. They are beautiful, mathematically inspired poems about the possible nature of reality. They are whispers from the furthest frontiers of human thought and curiosity. They are powerful and humbling reminders that for all we have learned, for all the incredible progress of science, the universe is likely far stranger, far more elegant, and far more mysterious than we can currently comprehend. The story of gravity, it seems, is not finished. It is still being written. For centuries, we saw it as a simple, predictable pull. Then, for a century, we have seen it as the elegant, dynamic curvature of spacetime. And now, we are beginning to wonder if it might be something else entirely, something woven from the deep, hidden threads of information, thermodynamics, and quantum mechanics. This doesn't change the comforting feeling of the pillow under your head. It doesn't mean you will suddenly float out of your bed. The illusion, if it is one, is a perfect, persistent, and reliable one, but it does invite a sense of profound and beautiful wonder. It's a bit like living in a house your whole life, and then one day, a quiet philosopher suggests that the walls might not be made of solid bricks, but of an intricately projected, informational pattern. The walls still hold up the roof. You are still safe and warm inside, but your understanding of your home, Your very sense of what is real is forever changed, deepened, and filled with a new and beautiful mystery. And so, as we prepare to make our final return from this speculative edge, let us hold on to this sense of wonder. The universe does not owe us simplicity, it does not owe us an intuitive reality, but it does offer us an endless source of mystery and beauty, and the familiar, constant force of gravity. It seems, may be the deepest, most beautiful, and most rewarding mystery of them all. And so, after our long, slow, and wondrous journey, we find ourselves at the end. We have drifted back from the misty, philosophical edges of reality. We have pulled away from the absolute, silent precipice of black holes. We have flown through the glowing, cosmic web of galaxies. We have soared past the fiery nurseries of newborn stars. We have navigated the elegant, curved spacetime of Einstein's mind. And we have come to rest, finally, and completely, exactly where we started, not in the cold, unforgiving vacuum of space, not in the sterile, humming halls of the International Space Station, but somewhere much closer, much warmer, much more familiar, home. We are back here, on Earth, back in your bed, your chair, your quiet, safe, nighttime corner, held gently, firmly, and reassuringly, by the very force we have spent this entire journey exploring, gravity. When we began this exploration, what feels like a very long time ago, I invited you to imagine yourself floating, free from weight, watching the beautiful, silent Earth roll by beneath you, and I posed a few simple, but profound questions. What is gravity? Really? What happens when we leave it behind, even just for a little while? And what does the stark, silent perspective of space teach us about this invisible force that rules our lives, and the entire cosmos? After our long, unwinding exploration, after touching upon so many layers of understanding, perhaps the most honest and simple answer is this: space teaches us that gravity is far more magnificent, far more subtle, and far more mysterious than we ever could have imagined, and it teaches us that our deep, intimate, and often unconscious relationship with this force defines us, in every possible way. We now know, with a new and deeper appreciation, that gravity is not gone in space. It is not absent. It only hides its true nature behind the perfect, perpetual, high-speed motion of an orbit. We have learned that astronauts are not truly floating in an absence of force, but are in a constant, endless, and graceful state of freefall, a beautiful, precise dance of falling towards the Earth, but always, at every moment, missing. We have drifted, in our minds, through the carefully engineered world of their orbital cocoon, and we have seen, in vivid detail, how every mundane aspect of earthly life, from eating a simple sandwich to sleeping through the night, must be completely reimagined and re-engineered to function in a world without the simple, orienting, and ever-present cue of down. We journeyed deep into the inner universe of the human body, and we saw, with new eyes, that we are truly and profoundly creatures of gravity. We learned that without its constant, familiar stress, our very biology, honed over millions of years, begins to unravel in strange and surprising ways. Our fluids shift upwards, giving us puffy faces and skinny legs. Our bones, no longer needing to bear our weight, begin to weaken. Our muscles, no longer needing to fight against its pull, begin to atrophy. Our very sense of balance, Our intuitive understanding of up and down becomes a confused and noisy signal, and yet, in this, we also saw the incredible, beautiful resilience of the human form and the human spirit. We saw how, with ingenuity, discipline, and perseverance, we can learn to adapt, to survive, and even to thrive, making a temporary, floating home in the most alien of all possible environments. Then, we allowed our perspective to zoom out, and our focus shifted from the personal to the cosmic. We saw gravity as the grand architect of the universe, the patient, silent sculptor of everything we see in the night sky. We watched, in our mind's eye, as it gathered thin, cold, lonely clouds of dust and gas, and over millions of years, compressed them into the fiery, luminous, life-giving hearts of stars. We saw it choreograph the majestic dance of hundreds of billions of stars into the breathtaking, swirling spiral of our home galaxy, the Milky Way, and we saw it weave those galaxies, by the trillions, into a cosmic web of unimaginable scale and delicate, filigree beauty. We peered into the heart of its most extreme and terrifying creation, the black hole, a place where gravity's rule is absolute and our known laws of physics come to a halt. And then, just when we thought we had grasped its scale, we took that sharp, beautiful turn into the dreamscape of Einstein's mind, and gravity ceased to be a simple, predictable force and became the very geometry of reality itself. We explored a strange and wonderful world where space can bend and time can stretch, where a beam of light can follow an invisible curve through the cosmos, and where the universe itself can hum with the silent, powerful music of gravitational waves, the echoes of ancient, cataclysmic collisions. And still further, we dipped our toes into the deep, strange, and misty waters of modern philosophy and theoretical physics. We contemplated the dizzying possibility that gravity might not be fundamental at all, but an emergent illusion, a statistical ghost born from the deeper, hidden laws of information and thermodynamics, perhaps even the shadow of a vast, holographic reality that we can never directly perceive. In every single layer of this long journey, from the most intimate and tangible sensation of weight in our own resting bodies to the most abstract and speculative of theories, gravity remained our constant companion. It was our guide. It was our subject. It was always there, shaping the story, deepening the mystery. But what have we truly learned? After all this time, after all these grand and complex ideas, what is the simple, quiet truth that we can hold on to as we finally let go, as we allow the gentle currents of sleep to pull us under? Perhaps it is this: whatever its ultimate physical nature, whether it is a pull, a curve, or a statistical push from chaos for us, in our human experience, gravity is, and always will be, connection. It is the invisible thread that ties you, in this very moment, to the warm, soft bed beneath you. It is the thread that ties your home to the solid, steady ground of the earth. It is the thread that ties the earth to the sun, holding us in the perfect, stable, life-giving orbit that allows for the seasons to turn and for life to flourish. It is the thread that holds our sun within the great, swirling, gravitational family of the Milky Way galaxy, and it is the thread that holds the very atoms within your own body, atoms that were forged in the fiery hearts of long-dead stars and scattered across the cosmos together in the complex, beautiful, and unique form that is you. It is the force that connects us all, right now, all across this beautiful, spinning planet, in every time zone, In every home, billions of human beings are resting, and all of us, without exception, are being held by the same gentle, persistent, and democratic embrace. From the person sleeping in a bustling, high-rise apartment in Tokyo, to a person sleeping in a quiet, rural village in the mountains of Peru, from the northernmost settlement in Greenland to the research stations at the South Pole, we all share this one fundamental, physical experience. We are all children of gravity, living together, held together, on the surface of this one precious, lonely, and beautiful planet. So tonight, as you lie here, on the very cusp of sleep, let this thought be your final, deep, and abiding comfort. The force that is holding you so securely and so gently in your bed is the very same force that is holding the distant, silent stars in the sky. You are not an isolated observer of the universe, peering in from the outside. You are a deeply integrated, essential, and beautiful part of it. The laws that govern the grandest cosmic structures are the very same elegant laws that are at work within you, right now, in this quiet, peaceful moment. Allow the feeling of your own weight, which we began with so long ago, to be a final, soothing reminder of this profound and beautiful connection. It is not a burden. It is your anchor to the cosmos. It is a lullaby, sung by the entire, colossal mass of the planet that is your home. It is a quiet, constant, and universal whisper that says, you belong. You are part of this grand story. You are safe. You are held. Rest now. Thank you for floating with me on this long, slow journey tonight. If it has brought you any sense of peace, any quiet wonder, any gentle curiosity, I would be so honored if you would join me again for another sleepy exploration into the marvels of our universe. It is a comforting thought to imagine all of us, a global community of quiet minds and gentle dreamers, resting together under the same vast, starlit sky, bound by the same beautiful, mysterious, and wonderful force. Good night. May your rest be deep and untroubled, and may your dreams be as limitless and as wondrous as the universe itself. Sleep well.